Oh, hi. The Rally Sausage has returned, and so has the Twins offense. Coincidence? We'll find out as soon as we get locked on Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Locked On Twins, your daily go-to destination for the top Minnesota Twins insight, discourse, and analysis. Personally, it's my favorite show of the Locked On Podcast Network, which brings you your team every day. I'm co-host David Brown, a professional ball writer since 1998, and a Baseball Writers Association member since 2012, and a Baseball Hall of Fame voter since this year. So please follow me on Twitter at AnswerDaveBrown if you like. Across from me in cyberspace is Brandon Warren, a Twins watcher for 30 years who not long ago covered the team on a daily basis professionally. He asks that you spam him politely on Twitter at Brandon_Warren. Now, that's more like it. Finally, kind of, a 10-5 victory Tuesday night for the Twins. Lots of runs and for the offense and another strong Pablo performance. Louis Varland flexing to 100 miles an hour in relief and many more details that we'll dive into just as soon as Brandon tells us who is bringing us this episode.
Well, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. By the way, thank you for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. We also appreciate you there. The Twins and Angels playing the finale. It's a night finale. It's a matchup of a couple of youngsters, Zebby Matthews against Angels ready Jack Kohanowicz.
I told you how it was pronounced.
Kohanowicz. There we go. Kohanowicz. First pitch scheduled for 6:10 p.m. Central at Target Field. Twins off Thursday, and then Jeff Carr's Reds come to town.
Oh, wow. Are we doing like a crossover? Or are the Reds not really worthy of that?
I don't know. I mean, I'd be happy to talk to Jeff. It's always fun to talk to Jeff, right?
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Fun. Talk about ball with Jeff. But in the meantime, we want to talk about Twins ball. Twins got back on the schneid, a 10-5 victory. It might have been 10-0 or 10-1 or something like 10-2, if not for some unearned runs. And that's not a small matter, perhaps, but we'll get to that in a moment, I suppose. Pablo, 2.05 ERA over his past 11 starts since July 10th. Like we said, he did give up 4 unearned runs. The Angels kind of struck after a force out or a fielder's choice wasn't converted by Edouard Julien at second base. The umpire got in his way, clearly, and then Edouard, I don't want to say panicked, but he certainly rushed a throw to first base. And the runner was safe, and then like four guys scored. And it seemed like one of those. I mean, it was big. It was a big enough lead that you didn't really think the Twins were going to blow the lead, but it's still, I don't know. It makes you worry about the future. And I looked at my Bible every day, not the Bible, but my fielding Bible, and I see that Edouard Julien is down to -6 defensive runs saved, and that's only in. I mean, that's not obviously in a full season of Major League games, 500 and blah blah innings. So there are some other names on there that you might be surprised are not doing well. Jose Altuve, Jonathan India. Speaking of the Reds, so he's got some company. There aren't a lot of good hitting, also fielding second basemen. But I'm sorry, this has turned into Edouard Julien already. Does he have you worried there at second base, Mr. Brandon?
Well, briefly, credit to also Zach Neto. He is a very, very good player who is on the ascent. He's been incredible in the second half, and he's the one who homered to give them 4 runs, which is not where they ended, but got them close. Neto, 2 extra base hits and 3 RBIs. I mean, just a great night. And that's how you take advantage of a team making a mistake, as the Twins did. You know what? I was not convinced that Luis Ariz could stay at second base. And so when the trade happened, I was like, okay, if Luis Ariz has to go to first base, this is a a very weird profile. Not that he couldn't be good, couldn't be decent. I'm even less convinced that Edouard Julien can play second base. I don't know if I want him playing first base. I don't know if I want him DHing. I don't know if I want him in left. I don't know if I want him here or there. I don't know if I want him anywhere, Dave Brown. And so I am concerned. Yeah. And, there was an improvement there, and then there was a lull. And I think I'd be less concerned if the same wasn't true of his offense. So maybe that's just his profile. It's feast or famine on every aspect of his game at any given moment. And so, I mean, at least the bat is going a little more to where he's providing some value, but at the same time, yeesh, yeah, the defense has been, when it's bad, it is cover your eyes, hide your kids, hide your wife. They're missing plays out here. To steal a line from Antoine Dodson.
Hide your wife. Is Trevor Bauer pitching?
Ooh.
So Edouard Julien, I wonder if he has worked hard on his defense and his hitting, but I wonder, like you said, if the slump on the offense has also carried over in a way, just in terms of the amount of time and concentration you can work on defense. He's still got a ways to go. I'm just imagining something like this happening in a postseason game where maybe it isn't, they don't have a huge lead, and there's it's just, it makes it extra hard on the pitchers. We're just, the Twins have played themselves into this position though, where we kind of wonder, all right, well, when is the other shoe gonna drop, and they're gonna let an inning collapse, and then a game collapse, and then a series collapse. So
I don't know when the other shoe
this to us.
I don't know when the other shoe is going to drop, but I have a pretty good idea of who's going to drop it.
Oh no, I set him up for that. I'm sorry, Edouard.
Yeah,
I still like you. I keep working on it. Good luck.
I think the player there, and the problem is, if he were to become a left fielder, the Twins are flush with outfielders in the system. Maybe not in the big leagues right now because they've been playing Austin Martin out there and Michael Hellman out there, but they're going to have to get creative to find room for a lot of these prospects. And again, good problem to have. Not all prospects pan out, but it does speed up the timeline for when the Twins have to figure out what Julien can actually do for them.
I think they've got, I think Larnach is a good bet for your opening day left fielder, unless of course they're facing a lefty, then who knows. with Wallner probably in right. Wallner's got a good defensive profile. He can play right field. He's got a right fielder's arm.
Kepler's got put out the door, though. I mean, that's the elephant in the room, right?
Yeah. Well, his knee is out the door right now because it's not healthy, but I suppose his foot is also out the door. Yeah. Although I'll say, let's just put this out there. The way free agency is coming off a bad year, I could see, I don't think they'd give him a qualifying offer.
No. Well, because his option's lower than that.
All right.
Unless you think he turns down the qualifying offer, you get a pick for him. But I really don't see any value in that because the risk of him accepting it when it's more than his option, I mean, there's just it doesn't make any sense to me.
All right. Well, I didn't think that one out entirely, but so, I mean, I'm just trying to see if it's like 100% chance that there's no more Kepler or just some chance.
Well, and you could do the pillow contract thing. Like, hey, listen, 1 year, 8 million, 6 million, whatever, with incentives for blah, blah, blah. But this Twins front office has really been like when they're done with you, it's over. Like Donovan Solano was good for them last year, very perfectly useful player. And there was like crickets about him coming back. He had to wait until spring training to sign. And there was, Jake Odorizzi hit free agency. And that was before they were crying poor. And like, there's just nothing there with Sonny Gray. Again, different situation, different, sets of whatever. But it just seems like when this front office finishes a contract with somebody, Tyler Malley's another one, and probably for good reason, but they just don't seem to go back to the well for guys who hit free agency. So as much as I would be like, maybe you get him on a pillow contract and, he can play right field at Target Field. I think it's 1 foot out the door for him, much the same as Jorge Polanco in Seattle. And those two have had a parallel career comeuppance, and I think that's not going to change right now.
And you're right about the outfielders being in the system, being ready.
Yep.
Jenkins, I don't think we're going to see him opening day, and I think next year sometime is still iffy. But Rodriguez certainly is on the verge of being in the major leagues. So
If he'd been healthy all year, he might be the center fielder right now.
It's certainly possible. It's certainly possible. Yep. All right, let's take our first break, and then when we come back, we'll mention the rally sausage, which is really how I wanted to frame this episode, because the rally sausage is back.
Well, we've been on the air 10 minutes. People already smell it, but they're it's a little foreshadowing, and no, we'll dive in. So you got to know that we love our friends at Gametime by now, and I was actually thumbing through the app just to see who the musical acts were coming to town, because a friend of mine asked me if I wanted to go to see Skillet, a band that I saw when I was in high school. And it's actually the weekend we're going up north for, not to get too deep on people, but my brother's interment is that weekend. So I can't go to Skillet, but I was also looking like, hey, what else is there? At the very bottom of the list, not even a date for a show yet, Childish Gambino at the XL Energy Center. I'm absolutely going to try convince my wife that should be a birthday gift or a Christmas gift. And we're going to use Gametime if that's the case. They're already selling tickets. There's some great deals in the app, depending on where you're comfortable sitting. The XL is obviously huge. 18,000 fans can fit in there. And so I was, like I said, just cruising the app. Deals aplenty and all kinds of different acts. Things that I remember from years ago listening to Keen back when I was in college. And Dashboard Confessional is going to be in Minneapolis soon. It's crazy the gamut that a city's theaters will run with music. But Gametime is the place to go. I like to toggle the all-in feature. I had that on when I was thumbing through, and so I saw the all-in pricing for the cheapest ticket, and I could get a feel for what I could or could not afford or justify spending. But also, too, as I'm looking through, I can do the panoramic view, look what the stage is going to look like. I mean, they really do set you up well. And they have the lowest price guarantee, which they will credit you 110% of the difference if you find that ticket cheaper elsewhere. So take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets with Gametime. You got to download that app. You really do. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONMLB. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB. That's all one word for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Did you know, or how soon did you know that Donald Glover and Childish Gambino were the same person?
About the same time. I was a big fan of Community. So, and then I also, like, they made a joke about Danny Glover and Community because those two aren't related, but everyone assumed that it was his dad due to
reasons.
Yeah, we don't need to get into that. But no, I'm a huge fan of everything he's done. I listen to his music on repeat. I'm absolutely, but his comedy is great. I use the gif of him going good all the time because it's just so funny to me. But he's an incredibly talented person, and he had some great comedy sketch stuff when he was in college that I recommend, but I cannot cite by name because it may not be culturally appropriate in 2024.
Already? I thought we were past that.
This was
anything at that time was okay, but anything
2006? No, we've changed quite a bit since 2006.
Oh, maybe you have. All right, so the rally sausage is back. I don't know where it goes or what it does, other than get more rancid. But is it a coincidence? I know we don't necessarily believe in the power of the rally sausage and other superstitious things, but it is baseball. You played baseball into college. Would you say that baseball players, more than anything else, as far as items like the rally sausage, they don't necessarily believe it works, but are they afraid to deny it just in case maybe it does work?
In a failure game, yeah. I mean, it's high socks. It's what you eat before the game. And, Wade Boggs, I want to say that one of my favorite bits on like one of those old blooper reel videos that they used to put out was that at like 6:17 every game he would do a certain stretch. And so they found out about it and they made it go 6:16 to 6:18 on the stadium clock. And he just like freaked out because he was such a creature of habit. And that's MLB players and baseball players in general. Like my daughter, we're at softball in a city about an hour away, and she's milling around third base. And I'm like, do not step on the baseline. And she's like, what are you talking about? I said, do not step on the baseline. You'll understand when you're older. Okay, Dad. So yes, no. Can I say a hot take about this rally sausage?
Well, just as long as you don't eat the take after it's hot.
I actually think that the rally sausage
I'm bracing myself.
is still safe to eat.
Wow.
Preservatives aplenty.
Safe from the standpoint of the typical things, bacteria that would kill people, but maybe not safe from the chemicals to keep it bacteria free.
It gives me a very Ken Jeong, but did you die aspect to it. Like, are you better for eating it? Maybe not. But did you die? I don't think you would.
I'll say this too. Kyle Farmer hit a 3-run homer. It's like his second home run recently.
He has 5 home runs in his last. There's a guy on Twitter, John Anderson, who does last 100 or 300 pitches, last 100 swings. You know, it's kind of like rolling data. And Kyle Farmer is one of the leaders in home runs over the last 100 swings with 5.
It just goes to show you that you never know. His OPS is up to 659, which is not good, but it's almost at the bottom of acceptable, which is amazing considering where he started.
Does that have him in positive Fangraphs WAR? I'm checking here because probably close. Yeah, 0.5 Fangraphs WAR, 87 weighted runs created plus, 289 WOBA, but a 303 expected WOBA. I mean, that's still a player who's helpful. I know as much as people have been DFA him, get him out of here. Well, it's not exactly like there's any prospect at AAA that's beating down the door. You're not bringing up Junior Severino as your utility man. Kyle Farmer still does just enough to justify a big league roster spot. You don't have to love it. You don't have to like it. You don't even have to admit it. But there's a reason why he's still here. And it's baseball, but it's also beyond baseball.
It's funny. He just addressed this too. They asked him about it. He's like, yeah, I've seen a bunch of guys DFA'd around the league and was kind of, I've wondered, like, well, am I the next one? So he has the same thoughts that fans do about what kind of season he's had. And
he reminds me a little bit of every Twins manager has had that utility guy who they've been. And so with Tom Kelly, do you remember who it was with Tom Kelly?
Was it Jeff Riboulet?
No, you're on the right track, though. It was Denny Hawking.
Oh, sure.
And then with Ron Gardenhire, I bet you know who Ron Gardenhire's was.
Now that would be the shredder, Nick Punto.
Yeah, LNP, Little Nicky Punto.
Yeah.
Paul Molitor's is a little less clear. It might be Danny Santana, who's the one that got me in trouble when I said, well, why didn't you pinch hit Miguel Sano for Danny Santana? And Paulie goes,
you can't ask me that.
Because you've been watching the games lately? And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm here. Anyway, and then I think Rocco's might be Kyle Farmer.
Right. Well, I think you're right. There isn't really anybody. I mean, whose fault is this? Someone else in the Twins, but there really isn't anybody else to take his place. And we're wondering about, well, what's Edouard Julien doing, in the near future? Is he going to be on the Twins? And then you look at how Brooks Lee has struggled sometimes at short on defense, and he's not hitting at all. So
Billy Caption stinks right now.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with him being used too much because there weren't any alternatives because Buxton and Correa were hurt.
Well, and Farmers
didn't bring any alternatives in.
Farmer's homer was off Canning, a righty. Like, he's here to hit lefties, and he homered off a righty. Like that, I don't know what that necessarily means in terms of the argument for him still being here, but the fact that he homered off a righty, like, that shouldn't just be dismissed outright.
It would be kind of funny. I mean, it was not to diminish the importance of the game last night, because they needed a win. They need many more. But it would be funny if in a big game, quote unquote, down the stretch in the playoffs, Kyle Farmer did something to win the game after all season of everybody, perhaps including Kyle Farmer, wondering why he's still here.
Like a Tom Lawless homer in the 87
Yes.
World Series.
Oh boy, that was an all-time bat flip. And
Yeah,
that
you know
was
what? I can't hate on that because, they say act like you've been there before. I literally have not. How can I act like I've been there before when I haven't? You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. But okay, the rally sausage is back. You're willing to eat the rally sausage. This could be a bit if we had a little more pull with the Twins, you could probably get close to the rally sausage and try to eat some of it in some
I can
sort of
get close, but they won't let me touch it. It reminds me of the Betsy Ross drill tweet about doing unspeakable things to the American.
that's awful.
Yeah. Yikes. Only the Twins colors weren't red, white, and blue, right?
Oh, now I've got visions in my head of people doing things to the rally sausage that are unclean. That's no good.
Uncouth.
Unclean.
Why don't we go to this second ad so that we can regroup and then we'll
I don't know if we'll regroup or not, but let's go to the ads.
We'll bring this thing full circle, which I don't know what that means either. And our friends at PrizePicks are wanting you to know that they are America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. They have over 5 million with an M active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because all you got to do is pick numbers more than or less than and watch your winnings roll in. You just get in on the daily action with your friends. You can become part of the PrizePicks community today. And the multipliers, you got to know about the multipliers. They set it up where your picks will multiply higher or lower based on kind of like the riskiness of the proposition. If you're looking for Pablo Lopez to get 7 strikeouts, probably not a huge multiplier there. If you're looking for, Zebby Matthews to get 7 strikeouts, probably a bigger multiplier. And so you just got to kind of go in there and see it for yourself. Your risk tolerance will differentiate how much you can make. But if you do it right, or if you do it as best as possible, you can win up to 100 times your money. Let's turn in $10 into 1,000. I'm not great at math, but I'm certain that maths out. So it's available in more than 30 states in America, including California, Texas, Georgia. I know it's in Minnesota, but you do really got to check out your state. So wherever you're listening from, hop on PrizePicks and see if they'll let you do it. You'll find out pretty quickly. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB, and they'll match your first deposit up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks, and you'll get a deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, run your game.
Speaking of not knowing what to make of anything, Louis Varland reached 100.6 miles an hour in one of his fastballs in his first inning of work yesterday. But then by the second inning, he was down to 94, 95, 96.
I saw 94. Yeah, that was the one that concerned me.
Yeah, to the point where, when people drop like that, you wonder, did he hurt his arm? Or
Right.
was he trying, was it dead just from overexerting himself for 100 miles an hour? I don't even know if that's a thing. But
I think there's 2 things at play here. Adrenaline, first and foremost, which is interesting when you're up. Let's see, when he entered, they would have been up 6 runs because he gave up a run. Adrenaline for one. But do you think it's possible that they maybe didn't convey to him, hey, you're going back out there for a second inning, especially with what you've seen to this point in the year for how they've managed relievers? I don't know.
I don't know. It's not a bad question. I don't know, though.
Maybe he burnt too fast, too quickly. Maybe he thought, Scott Blewett would get the 9th. Maybe he thought Michael Tonkin would get the 9th. I don't know. But to see him hit that obviously was exciting. And I actually tweeted Beavis and Butthead going boing because of how excited I was for it. Boy, we are off the rails, but I'm having a lot of fun. But then, hitting 94, all of a sudden it's like, cripes, did we go from peak excitement to peak fraught with fear? Because that is a significant drop. And now, with that said, a pitcher who would add and subtract like that willingly, that could be interesting from a strategy standpoint as well. Maybe there's a possibility a changeup was misclassified. I don't think it was. But his cutter was sitting, 91, 92. So when the fastball drops like that, I don't know. In the back of my head, I was like, not loving that. And then he comes back with, I think he finished with a 97. So it wasn't all the way back, but it kind of made me feel like, he's probably okay. But I wondered if maybe he wasn't expecting to be out there for a second inning.
I don't know. You'd hope. I don't know what the deal. I think a lot of times they don't necessarily tell them, yeah, you're going out there for 2 innings, or
Well,
I
get
don't
through
know
the
if they're
first
that
one to
specific.
get to the second one.
Yeah,
Get
right.
through it to get to it.
I don't know. It's a good question. Louis was not very. The group asked him after his shift to the bullpen, and he was not very talkative to the media. He was. You could tell he was trying not to say anything, like trying extra hard to absolutely give short answers. I think some of them were yes or no questions, and he took them
Like
up on it.
good soldier stuff.
It kind of, but also, there was a earlier in the season. I don't remember this specifically, but I think he was under the assumption that I don't know if he was under the assumption that he wasn't being quoted, but I think he got mad at the media for publishing comments of his saying starting pitchers get paid more money, and that's one reason why I'm going to the starting rotation, which is kind of a crass way to put it. But I mean, that's why Seth Lugo is a starting pitcher now. I mean,
You know
that's
who else said that was? Trevor May, out loud.
yeah, right.
I mean, it's
So,
just you're saying the quiet part out loud. It's really not a crime, but publicly
but
out
it kind
loud.
of put it. I think Louis feels like it put him in a position where, I don't know if I should say things anymore. So, I guess what I'm getting at is if you want to ask Louis Varland what's wrong or what's going on, it's hard to get like answers out of him at this time. So I don't
Right.
know. Like, was he adding and subtracting on purpose? I thought of that too, but I thought, well, maybe he would have done that in the first inning, like throwing 100 and then drop maybe down to 96 and then and he wasn't really doing that. So I don't know. It's I would like to think that in the fifth inning of a playoff game, maybe a Simeon Woods Richardson start, you could bring Louis Varland in for 3, 4, 5, 6 outs, but I'm not sure yet. So
Just
we've
gas him
got
up.
2 weeks left in the season. But I think that's the goal. I think that's what if all things go well, that's what we would see in the
Well,
playoffs.
and the ability is clearly there between the velocity. I think he's always had pretty good command. It's just, can he keep the ball in the ballpark and in shorter spurts for whatever reason? I mean, there's myriad reasons why, whether it's paring down your repertoire, whatever repertoire. I'm not talking about the dinosaur on Rugrats. It worked with Griffin Jacks, and so it's not hard to envision. I mean, maybe not becoming as good as Griffin Jacks, but in that general vein. I mean, Brian Dunsing became a much better reliever than starter. Glenn Perkins, much better reliever than starter. It's not rocket science, or as my sister would say, rocket surgery, to do that. And so I like the idea, and I think there's a path for it to be beneficial for sure.
Yeah, I don't think I think that path though might extend into next year, but I'm not 100% sure that it's going to
He's the
benefit the
kind of guy
Twins in the moment.
I'd put on the playoff roster for if you're down 5-3 early and you want someone to come out for 2-3 innings, try keep them at bay and get your sticks going. You don't need a mop up guy in the bullpen for the playoffs, but a guy who can give you a little length, that'd be my guy.
Right. And also, he's only had a couple of bullpen appearances since the retransition to the bullpen. So, like I said, we've got like 2.5 weeks left. This could still happen, but it's not instantaneous for sure.
Are you fully out on him as a starter? Because I think I am.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm if they wanted to do another off season of tinkering and another maybe. I mean, his stuff is still very good. I mean, there could be. Maybe we need to be more patient. I don't know. He hasn't been at it that long.
Does he need a sinker? I think he needs a different one more pitch with a different trajectory.
Absolutely. I don't know. Maybe he needs to refine his cutter a little bit, and maybe that can be.
Duffy, knock it down to 2 pitches and just go kick ass.
Yeah, but make sure that second pitch will work.
His Duffy's was a knuckle curve, and that was pretty good. But even when he got into trouble, it was home runs too. Same with Trevor May.
A couple bits of housekeeping before we send it back to you and yours at home. The Guardians beat the White Sox to stay 6 up in the AL Central. Kansas City behind Seth Lugo, mentioned him earlier, won to stay 2 games in the loss column ahead of the Twins for the second wild card spot. The Tigers are still 3 games back Boston and Seattle are 4, Tampa Bay 6, and Texas 7. Texas still sort of hanging around. I don't see those latter two teams making a jump. I suppose it's possible. The Twins still play the Red Sox, so that'll be a big series to not get swept.
They beat the piss out of the Rockies, didn't they?
They did.
11-0 or something like that.
They did, yeah. I mean, they're playing the Rockies, so I wouldn't expect them to lose any of those games in that series. So still got to keep ahead of them. And I think it would be nice for Webby to get back on the schneid a little bit today. So
Webby, I love it.
We'll see if he's able to do that. And we also have Correa and Buxton hitting off Class A pitchers and workouts at Target Field. So that is encouraging. It seems like they're close as long as we don't have any setbacks.
Facing Class A pitchers to hopefully get ready to face Emmanuel Class A. Hey, let's give some love to Sully. Thank you for making Locked On Twins your first listen, but make Sully your second listen, Locked On MLB. He's Paul Sullivan. We call him Sully. We got a good vibe with him. He has his national expertise, and his trademark humor gets you ready for the playoffs as we roll through the dog days. So get ready for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it every single day on Locked On MLB. Available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, because it's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day.
And one last thing, Christian Vasquez's family welcomes another child into the world. Mrs. Vasquez had a baby. And the good thing is, previous time she's given birth, Christian's won a World Series that same year. So Can we make it 3 times? Yeah. Twice it's happened before. So
I'm in.
All right. And we're out. So for my friend Brandon Warren, this is Dave Brown. Wishing you all a very pleasant good evening. I hope you like the Outcast, if not the income. And we just want to let you know that we're Locked On Twins, and we're going to see you
tomorrow night.
When it's dark.